My name is Natasha, and I am so happy you are here today. If you are new to this channel, let me tell you something important. Every day we upload new episodes to help you improve your English step by step. You can practice listening, learn new words, and discover how to use English in everyday situations. So stay with us, because today we are going to focus on how to speak naturally in real-life conversations. Let's begin with a small story. Yesterday, I went to the local market. I wanted to buy some fresh vegetables. When I arrived, I saw an old friend, Daniel, who was also shopping. He smiled and said, "Hi, Natasha, how are you doing today?" I replied, "I am doing well, thank you." "What about you?" This is a very simple and natural exchange, but many learners forget to answer in a complete and friendly way. Instead of just saying fine, you can add something extra. For example, "I am doing well, thank you." "I am here to buy some vegetables. What about you?" Adding a little detail makes your English sound natural and more interesting. Now let's practice another situation. Imagine you are at work and you meet your colleague, Sarah. She asks, "How was your weekend?" You can answer in two ways. First, the short answer, "It was good, thank you." Or you can make it more engaging. "It was good, thank you. My husband and I visited a new cafe near our house and we really enjoyed the food." This small detail shows personality and invites the other person to continue the conversation. Here is another story. A few weeks ago, my neighbor, Mr. Johnson, asked me for help. He wanted to write an email in English to his company. He showed me his draft. It was very short, only 3 lines. I told him, "You should make your email sound polite and clear." Instead of writing, "I cannot come tomorrow," he wrote again, "Dear sir, I am sorry, but I cannot attend the meeting tomorrow. Could we arrange another time this week?" Do you see the difference? The second version is polite, natural, and professional. Now think about daily life situations, like visiting a doctor. Imagine Anna is not feeling well, so she goes to see the doctor. The doctor asks, "What seems to be the problem?" Anna replies, "I have had a headache since yesterday, and I feel very tired." Notice how she gives details about her problem. This helps the doctor understand quickly. In English conversations, giving clear details is very important. Another everyday example is asking for directions. Suppose Mark is new in the city and he wants to find the train station. He stops a man on the street and says, "Excuse me, could you tell me how to get to the train station?" The man answers, "Yes, go straight down this road, then turn left at the traffic light. The station will be on your right." Mark listens carefully and repeats, "So I go straight, then turn left at the traffic light, and the station is on the right?" Repeating the directions shows that you are listening and makes your English sound confident. When you practice these small conversations, remember that tone is important too. If you speak too fast, people may not understand you. If you speak too slow, the conversation may sound unnatural. Try to keep a comfortable pace, like when you are telling a friend about your day. Now imagine you are at a restaurant. Ordering food is a very common situation where you can practice sounding natural. Let's take the example of David and his wife, Emma. They go to a restaurant for lunch. The waiter comes and says, "Good afternoon, are you ready to order?" David replies, "Yes, please. I would like the grilled chicken with rice. And for my wife, she will have the vegetable soup." Notice the polite way David speaks. He uses "please" and "I would like" instead of just saying "give me." This makes the conversation sound friendly and respectful. After the meal, the waiter asks, "Would you like anything else?" Emma answers, "Yes, could we please have 2 cups of tea?" This is polite, simple, and natural. When the bill arrives, David says, "Could we pay by card?" Again, it is short but polite. These small sentences are useful for many everyday situations. Here is another story. Last week, my cousin Sophia had an interview for a new job. She was very nervous about speaking English, but she prepared some simple answers in advance. When the interviewer asked, "Tell me about yourself," Sophia replied, "My name is Sophia, and I have 5 years of experience as a teacher. I enjoy helping people learn, and I always try to make my classes interesting." This answer is clear, positive, and professional. It is better than just saying, "I am a teacher." Adding a little more detail makes her sound confident. Now let's practice a situation at the supermarket. Imagine Michael is at the checkout counter and the cashier says, "Do you need a bag?" Michael can reply in two ways. He could say, "No, thank you. I have my own bag." Or if he needs one, he could say, "Yes, please. Could you give me 2 bags?" These are small phrases, but they are part of everyday English. Another useful situation is at the post office. For example, Sarah needs to send a letter to her friend in another city. She goes to the counter and says, "Good morning, I would like to send this letter to New York. How much will it cost?" The clerk replies, "It will be $2. Sarah then says, "Thank you. Could you please send it by express mail?" This kind of conversation is very common, and practicing it will help you feel more confident. Let's also look at how to ask for help in English. Imagine John is in a library and he cannot find a book. He goes to the librarian and says, "Excuse me, could you help me find a book about history?" The librarian replies, "Of course, what is the title?" John says, "The title is World History." This shows a polite way of asking for help. Remember to use phrases like "excuse me" and "could you help me" to sound more natural. When you practice these conversations, it is important to imagine the situation clearly in your mind. Think about the people, the place, and what you need to say. This way, when you face the real situation, the sentences will come out more easily and naturally. Imagine you are traveling by bus. A man named Peter is going to visit his sister in another town. He goes to the bus station and asks the clerk, "Excuse me, what time does the next bus leave for Greenfield?" The clerk replies, "The next bus leaves at 10:30. Peter continues, "How much is the ticket?" The clerk answers, "It is $10. Peter then says, "Thank you. I would like 1 ticket, please." This is a very polite and natural way to buy a bus ticket. When Peter gets on the bus, he meets another passenger named Robert. Robert asks, "Is this your first time traveling to Greenfield?" Peter replies, "No, I have been there before. My sister lives there, and I usually visit her once a month." This is a short, natural conversation between two strangers. Now let's think about a situation in a clothing store. A woman named Laura goes shopping for a new jacket. She asks the shop assistant, "Excuse me, do you have this jacket in a medium size?" The assistant replies, "Yes, let me check for you." "Here it is." Laura says, "Thank you. Can I try it on?" The assistant answers, "Of course, the fitting room is over there." After trying it, Laura says, "It fits well. How much does it cost?" The assistant replies, "It is $35. Laura says, "I will take it. Please." Notice how the conversation is clear, polite, and useful for real life. Another everyday situation is visiting a bank. A man named James walks into the bank and says to the clerk, "Good morning, I would like to open a savings account." The clerk asks, "Do you have an ID with you?" James replies, "Yes, here's my passport." The clerk then says, "Thank you. Please fill out this form." James answers, "Of course, I will do that now." These polite exchanges show how to communicate in professional environments. Let's look at a different situation. Meeting new neighbors. Imagine you have just moved into a new apartment. A woman named Rachel knocks on your door and says, "Hello, I am Rachel. I live next door." "Welcome to the building." You reply, "Thank you, Rachel. My name is Thomas. I just moved here with my wife and 2 children." Rachel smiles and says, "That is wonderful. If you need any help, please let me know." This is a natural way to introduce yourself to neighbors. Another useful situation is at the airport. A traveler named David goes to the check-in counter. He says, "Good afternoon, I would like to check in for my flight to London." The agent replies, "May I see your passport and ticket, please?" David answers, "Yes, here they are." The agent says, "Thank you. Do you have any luggage to check in?" David replies, "Yes, 1 suitcase." The agent says, "All right, here is your boarding pass. Your gate is number 12. David replies, "Thank you very much." These are standard sentences you can use when traveling. Now let's think about a situation in a classroom. A student named Alex is speaking with his teacher. Alex says, Excuse me, could you explain this grammar point again? The teacher replies, Of course, Alex. This grammar rule is about using the past tense. Alex says, Thank you. I understand better now. This is how students can politely ask for help. Another everyday example is at a cafe. A man named Henry goes to order breakfast. He says to the cashier, Good morning. I would like a coffee with milk and a croissant, please. The cashier replies, Would you like the croissant warmed up? Henry answers, Yes, please. That would be great. The cashier then says, That will be $4. Henry replies, Here you are. Thank you. Let's look at a situation when you meet someone new at a park. A woman named Clara is sitting on a bench with her little son. Another woman, Anna, is also sitting there. Anna says, It is a beautiful day, isn't it? Clara replies, Yes, it is. My son loves playing outside on sunny days. Anna smiles and says, My daughter is the same. She enjoys running in the park. Small talk like this is very common in English. Now imagine you are at a library. A man named Richard goes to the desk and says, Hello, I would like to get a library card. The librarian replies, Do you live in this city? Richard answers, Yes, I do. The librarian says, Great, could you fill out this form? Richard replies, Of course. Thank you. This is short but practical English. Here is another role play at a pharmacy. A woman named Emily goes to buy medicine. She says to the pharmacist, Good afternoon, I have a headache. Could you recommend something for me? The pharmacist replies, Yes, here is some medicine. Please take 1 tablet every 6 hours with water. Emily answers, Thank you. I will follow your advice. This type of conversation is very useful when you need help with health problems. Another everyday situation is booking a hotel room. A man named Oliver calls the hotel and says, Good evening, I would like to book a room for 2 nights. The receptionist replies, What dates would you like? Oliver answers, From the 12th to the 14th of October. The receptionist says, We have a double room available. Would you like to reserve it? Oliver replies, Yes, please. That sounds perfect. This is clear and natural communication. Let's imagine a situation at the bakery. A woman named Grace goes inside and says, Good morning. Do you have whole wheat bread today? The baker replies, Yes, we do. Would you like a small loaf or a large one? Grace answers, A large one, please. And could I also have 6 rolls? The baker replies, Of course. That will be $6. Grace says, Here you are. Thank you. This is another simple but practical conversation. Now let's think about visiting a park with children. A father named Daniel takes his son to the playground. Another father, William, is there with his daughter. Daniel says, Your daughter climbs very well. She looks confident. William replies, Thank you. She enjoys climbing every weekend. Daniel says, My son prefers the swings. He could play there for hours. Conversations like this are a good way to practice speaking naturally about family and everyday life. Another important situation is at the doctor's office for a checkup. A man named Samuel goes to see the doctor. The doctor says, How are you feeling today? Samuel replies, I feel fine, but I would like a general checkup. The doctor asks, Do you have any health problems? Samuel answers, No, but I just want to make sure everything is okay. This is polite and professional English. Now let's look at how to introduce yourself at a community event. A woman named Helen attends a local meeting. She says to another person, Hello, my name is Helen. I am new in this town. The other person replies, Welcome, Helen. My name is Charles. I have lived here for 10 years. Helen smiles and says, That is nice. I am happy to meet new people here. These are good sentences to use when making introductions. Imagine another everyday moment, calling a taxi. A man named Andrew phones a taxi company and says, Hello, I need a taxi to go to the train station. The operator replies, What is your address? Andrew answers, I am at 25 King Street. The operator says, A taxi will arrive in 10 minutes. Andrew replies, Thank you very much. This is a short and useful example. Now let's talk about going to a hardware store. A woman named Linda goes inside and says, "Excuse me, do you have light bulbs?" The shop assistant replies, "Yes, they are on the second shelf." Linda says, "Thank you. I also need a small hammer." The assistant replies, "Here you go. Would you like anything else?" Linda answers, "No, that will be all." "How much is it?" These are real-life sentences you can practice. Another situation is speaking at a family gathering. A man named George is at his parents' house. His brother asks, "How is work going these days?" George replies, "It is going well. We are working on a new project and it keeps me busy." His brother says, "That sounds interesting. I hope it goes well." These family conversations are good practice for everyday speaking. Now think about being in a bookshop. A woman named Caroline asks the cashier, "Do you have any books about gardening?" The cashier replies, "Yes, they are in the back section." Caroline says, "Thank you. Could you recommend one for beginners?" The cashier replies, "Yes, this one is very popular." Caroline answers, "Perfect, I will take it." This shows how to ask questions politely. Imagine being at a fruit shop. A man named Philip asks, "How much are the apples today?" The shopkeeper replies, $2 per kilo. Philip says, "I will take 2 kilos, please." "And how much are the bananas?" The shopkeeper replies, $1 per kilo. Philip answers, "Great, I will take 1 kilo as well." These are short and simple exchanges. Let's do one more situation. Visiting a museum. A couple, Mark and his wife Laura, arrive at the ticket desk. Mark says, "Good afternoon. We would like 2 tickets, please." The clerk replies, "Would you like the audio guide as well?" Laura answers, "Yes, please. That would be helpful." The clerk says the total is $15. Mark replies, "Here's the payment. Thank you." These sentences are easy to practice and useful in real life. Imagine you are at the barber shop. A man named Anthony walks in and says, "Good morning, I would like a haircut, please." The barber replies, "Of course. How would you like it cut?" Anthony answers, "Just a little shorter on the sides, but not too short on the top." The barber says, "No problem. Please have a seat." This shows a clear way to explain what you want in English. Now think about visiting a farm. A woman named Diana takes her children to see the animals. She meets the farmer and says, "Hello, could we see the cows and chickens?" The farmer replies, "Yes, you can. The cows are in the barn and the chickens are in the yard." Diana says, "Thank you. My children are very excited." This is an easy and natural way to have a conversation in English. Another situation is asking for help at a train station. A traveler named Patrick looks at the map but feels confused. He asks a staff member, "Excuse me, could you tell me which train goes to Central Station?" The staff member replies, "Yes, take the train on platform 3. Patrick answers, "Thank you very much. I will go there now." Clear and polite communication makes these situations easier. Let's move to a family situation at home. A mother named Julia says to her daughter, "Could you please set the table for dinner?" The daughter replies, "Of course, I will put the plates and cups on the table." Julia says, "Thank you. After dinner, we will clean the kitchen together." Simple family conversations like this are common in daily life and good to practice. Now imagine you are at a conference. A man named Brian meets another participant and says, "Hello, my name is Brian. I work in sales." "What do you do?" The other person replies, "Nice to meet you, Brian. I am Catherine, and I work in marketing." Brian says, "That is interesting. Maybe our work connects in some way." This type of conversation is common in professional events. Another useful place to practice English is at a bakery cafe. A woman named Laura goes in and says, "Good morning. Could I please have a sandwich with cheese and a cup of tea?" The worker replies, "Would you like the sandwich toasted?" Laura answers, "Yes, that would be nice. Thank you." These small questions and answers help you sound more natural. Let's think about going to a sports shop. A man named Victor walks in and asks, "Do you sell football shoes here?" The assistant replies, "Yes, they are on the 3rd shelf. What size do you need?" Victor answers, size 42, please. The assistant says, here they are. Would you like to try them on? Victor replies, yes, please. They look comfortable. This type of role play helps with shopping vocabulary. Another daily life example is calling your child's school. A mother named Emily phones and says, good afternoon. This is Emily Smith. I would like to speak with my son's teacher. Please, the receptionist replies. One moment. I will connect you. When the teacher answers, Emily says, hello. I just wanted to ask about the homework for this week. The teacher replies, of course. I will explain. This shows a polite way to communicate with schools. Now imagine being at a park with your dog. A man named George meets another dog owner. He says, your dog looks very friendly. The woman replies, thank you. His name is Max. What is your dog's name? George says, her name is Bella. She loves running here. This small talk is helpful for social situations. Let's practice visiting a clinic for a checkup. A woman named Anna says to the nurse, good morning, I have an appointment with Dr. Lee at 10 o'clock. The nurse replies, yes, please take a seat. The doctor will call you soon. Anna says, thank you very much. This is short but polite language you can use at clinics. Another everyday example is buying flowers. A man named Joseph goes to a flower shop and says, hello, I would like to buy some roses, please. The shopkeeper replies, how many roses would you like? Joseph answers, a dozen, please. And could you wrap them nicely? The shopkeeper says, of course. That will be $10. Joseph replies, here is the money. Thank you. Now think about talking to a plumber at home. A woman named Sarah calls the plumber and says, hello, the sink in my kitchen is leaking. Could you please come and fix it? The plumber replies, yes, I can come tomorrow morning. Sarah says, thank you. I will be at home. This is another useful situation. Imagine going to a community center. A man named Martin says to the receptionist, hello, I would like to sign up for an English class. The receptionist replies, of course. Could you please fill in this form with your details? Martin answers, yes, I will do that now. Conversations like this help in daily life. Another situation is asking about opening hours. A woman named Rachel calls a shop and says, hello, what time do you open tomorrow? The shop assistant replies, we open at 9 in the morning and close at 6 in the evening. Rachel says, thank you. I will come in the afternoon. Now imagine going to the dentist. A man named Paul says, good afternoon, I have an appointment for 2 o'clock. The receptionist replies, yes, please wait for a few minutes. The dentist will be ready soon. Paul says, thank you. This shows a polite and natural way of speaking. Another common situation is buying tickets for a train. A woman named Sophie goes to the counter and says, good morning, I would like 2 tickets to Manchester, please. The clerk replies, do you want one-way or return tickets? Sophie answers, return, please. Coming back tomorrow. The clerk says, that will be £30. Sophie replies, here you go. Thank you. Now let's practice asking for information at a tourist office. A man named Kevin says, hello, could you please tell me what interesting places I can visit in this town? The staff member replies, yes, you can visit the old castle and the city museum. Kevin answers, that sounds great. Thank you very much. Imagine you are in a grocery store. A woman named Olivia asks the cashier, do you accept card payments? The cashier replies, yes, we do. Olivia says, perfect. I will pay by card, please. These are short but necessary sentences. Another useful place to practice English is at the park playground. A mother named Jane says to another parent, do you come here often? The other parent replies, yes, I usually bring my children here in the afternoons. Jane says, that is nice. It is a safe place for children. These are small but natural conversations. Now let's move to the workplace. A man named Edward asks his colleague, could you help me with this report? I need to finish it by tomorrow. His colleague replies, of course, let's work on it together. Edward says, thank you. That is very kind of you. These polite expressions are useful in offices. Imagine going to a shoe repair shop. A woman named Claire says, "Hello, could you please repair these shoes? The heel is broken." The shoemaker replies, "Yes, I can fix them. They will be ready in 2 days." Claire says, "That is perfect. Thank you very much." Another everyday example is buying tickets for a bus tour. A tourist named Robert says, "Good morning. I would like 1 ticket for the city bus tour." The seller replies, "Would you like a ticket for 1 day or 2 days?" Robert answers, "Just 1 day, please." The seller says, "That will be $15. Robert replies, "Here you are." Thank you. Now think about borrowing a book from a library. A student named Linda says, "Excuse me, I would like to borrow this book, please." The librarian replies, "Of course. Do you have a library card?" Linda answers, "Yes, here it is." The librarian says, "Thank you. You can keep the book for 2 weeks." Linda replies, "Perfect. Thank you very much." Another role play is going to the optician. A man named Daniel says, "Good afternoon. I need to check my eyes." The optician replies, "Yes, please sit down. We will start the test." Daniel says, "Thank you." Short and polite sentences are always helpful. Imagine going to a cafe with a friend. A woman named Hannah says to the waiter, "Could we have 2 cups of tea and a slice of cake, please?" The waiter replies, "Of course. Would you like the cake with cream?" Hannah answers, "Yes, please. That would be nice." Another everyday situation is going to the post office. A man named Thomas says, "Good morning, I would like to send this package to London." The clerk replies, "Would you like regular or express delivery?" Thomas answers, "Express, please." The clerk says, "That will be $20. Thomas replies, "Here is the money. Thank you." Now think about asking someone for the time. A boy named Adam says to a stranger, "Excuse me, could you tell me the time, please?" The stranger replies, "Yes, it is 3:30. Adam says, "Thank you very much." These are very basic but useful phrases. Another example is calling a plumber for help. A woman named Lucy says, "Hello, my washing machine is not working. Could you come tomorrow?" The plumber replies, "Yes, I will come in the morning." Lucy says, "Thank you very much." Imagine you are at a hospital reception desk. A woman named Margaret walks in and says, "Good morning, I have an appointment with Dr. Allen at 9:30. The receptionist replies, "Yes, your name, please?" Margaret answers, "Margaret Brown." The receptionist smiles and says, "Thank you. Please take a seat and the doctor will call you shortly." Margaret replies, "Thank you very much." This is a natural way to speak at hospitals. Now let's think about visiting a travel agency. A man named Christopher walks in and says, "Hello, I would like some information about trips to Spain." The agent replies, "Of course, are you interested in a holiday package or just flight tickets?" Christopher answers, "I would like a full package, including hotel." The agent replies, "We have a 7-day package in Barcelona. Would you like more details?" Christopher says, "Yes, please." That sounds great. Another situation is asking about public transport. A woman named Nancy is standing at the bus stop and sees another passenger. She says, "Excuse me, does this bus go to City Center?" The passenger replies, "Yes, it does. You need to get off at the 3rd stop." Nancy replies, "Thank you for your help." This shows how to ask simple but important questions. Imagine you are in a bookstore. A man named Henry goes to the counter and says, "Good afternoon, I am looking for a dictionary in English and French." The cashier replies, "Yes, we have several. Would you like a small pocket dictionary or a large one?" Henry answers, "A pocket dictionary, please." "I need it for travel." The cashier says, "Here you go. That will be $12. Henry replies, "Thank you. This is exactly what I need." Now think about speaking at the post office again, but with a new situation. A woman named Clara says, "Hello, I would like to buy some stamps for international letters." The clerk replies, "How many stamps do you need?" Clara answers, 10, please." The clerk says, "Here they are. That will be $5. Clara replies, "Thank you very much." Another everyday role play is at a farmer's market. A man named Edward says, "Good morning, how much are the tomatoes today?" The seller replies, $2 per kilo. Edward answers, "I will take 3 kilos, please." "And how much are the cucumbers?" The seller replies, $1 each. Edward says, "I will take 5, please." This is useful vocabulary for food shopping. Let's imagine you are at a gas station. A driver named Philip says to the worker, "Could you please fill the tank with petrol?" The worker replies, "Yes, how much would you like?" Philip answers, "Full tank, please." The worker replies, "All right, it will be ready in a few minutes." Philip says, "Thank you very much." Another example is speaking at a clothing alteration shop. A woman named Jessica says, "Hello, this dress is too long. Could you shorten it for me?" The tailor replies, "Yes, I can. How many centimeters would you like me to cut?" Jessica answers, 10 centimeters, please." The tailor says, "All right. It will be ready in 3 days." Jessica replies, "Thank you. Now think about renting a car." A man named Michael says to the rental agent, "Good afternoon. I would like to rent a small car for 3 days." The agent replies, "Do you have your driver's license with you?" Michael answers, "Yes, here it is." The agent says, "Perfect. Please sign this form." Michael replies, "Of course. Thank you." Another situation is asking for directions inside a shopping mall. A woman named Helen says to the security guard, "Excuse me, where is the nearest restroom?" The guard replies, "Go straight ahead and turn left after the shoe shop." Helen answers, "Thank you very much." These are short but useful interactions. Let's move to a garden shop. A man named Robert says, "Good morning, do you sell flower seeds here?" The shop assistant replies, "Yes, we have many types." "Which flowers are you looking for?" Robert answers, "Sunflowers and roses, please." The assistant replies, "Here they are." Now imagine being in a bank again with a different request. A woman named Angela says, "Good afternoon. I would like to withdraw $200 from my account." The clerk replies, "Do you have your bank card?" Angela answers, "Yes, here it is." The clerk says, "Thank you. Please enter your PIN." Angela replies, "All right. Thank you." Another everyday example is at a dry cleaner. A man named Charles says, "Hello, I would like to clean this suit." The worker replies, "Yes, when do you need it ready?" Charles answers, "By Friday, please." The worker says, "No problem. It will be ready on time." Charles replies, "Thank you very much." Let's think about a pharmacy again, but with a new situation. A woman named Sophia says, "Hello, I need some vitamins. Could you recommend something?" The pharmacist replies, "Yes, here are some multivitamins. They are very popular." Sophia answers, "Thank you. I will take 1 bottle." The pharmacist replies, "That will be $15. Sophia says, "Here is the money." "Thank you." Now imagine talking at school with another parent. A father named Daniel says to another parent, "Hello, my name is Daniel. My son is in class 3. What about your child?" The other parent replies, "My daughter is also in class 3. Daniel says, "That is nice. Maybe they know each other." These conversations help you connect with people. Another role play is buying tickets for the cinema. A woman named Mary says, "Good afternoon. I would like 2 tickets for the 7 o'clock show." The cashier replies, "Do you want seats at the front or at the back?" Mary answers, "At the back, please." The cashier says, "Here are your tickets." Mary replies, "Thank you very much. Now let's practice in a furniture shop." A man named Steven says, "Hello, I am looking for a small table for my living room." The assistant replies, "We have many tables. Do you want wood or glass?" Steven answers, "Wood, please. Something simple." The assistant says, "Here is one that is very popular." Steven replies, "That looks good. I will take it." Imagine you are in a hotel lobby. A woman named Caroline says, "Good evening. Could you call a taxi for me, please?" The receptionist replies, "Of course. It will arrive in 10 minutes. Caroline says, "Thank you very much." Another daily example is ordering food delivery. A man named Matthew calls and says, "Hello, I would like to order one large pizza with vegetables." The worker replies, "What address should we deliver to?" Matthew answers, 25 King Street, apartment 4. The worker says, "Thank you. The pizza will arrive in 30 minutes. Matthew replies, "Perfect. Thank you." Now imagine a situation at a tourist attraction. A family arrives at the zoo. The father, David, says, "Good morning, I would like 4 tickets, please." The cashier replies, "Do you want adult and child tickets?" David answers, "Yes, 2 adult tickets and 2 child tickets." The cashier says, "That will be $25. David replies, "Here you go." Thank you. Another useful conversation is at a shoe shop. A woman named Olivia says, "Hello, do you have these shoes in size 38? The assistant replies, "Yes, let me check." "Here they are." Olivia answers, "Thank you." "Can I try them on?" The assistant says, "Of course." "Please sit down." Olivia replies, "They fit well." "I will take them." Now think about buying a train card. A man named Ethan says, "Good morning, I would like a monthly travel card." The clerk replies, "Which zones do you need?" Ethan answers, "Zones 1 and 2, please." The clerk says, "That will be $50. Ethan replies, "Here's the money." "Thank you." Let's practice speaking in a grocery store again with a new example. A woman named Grace says, "How much are the oranges today?" The seller replies, $3 for a kilo. Grace answers, "I will take 2 kilos, please." The seller says, "Here you go." Grace replies, "Thank you very much." Imagine visiting an electronics shop. A man named Oliver says, "Hello, do you sell phone chargers for Samsung?" The assistant replies, "Yes, they are on this shelf." Oliver answers, "Thank you. I will take one." The assistant says, "That will be $12. Oliver replies, "Here you are. Thank you." Another conversation is at a swimming pool. A woman named Hannah says to the staff, "Good afternoon, I would like 1 ticket to swim today." The staff replies, "Would you like a locker key as well?" Hannah answers, "Yes, please." The staff says, "That will be $8. Hannah replies, "Thank you." Now think about making a doctor's appointment on the phone. A man named Samuel says, "Hello, I would like to make an appointment with Dr. Smith." The receptionist replies, "What day and time do you prefer?" Samuel answers, "Thursday morning if possible." The receptionist says, "Yes, we have a slot at 10 o'clock. Samuel replies, "Perfect. Thank you." Imagine being at an airport check-in desk. A passenger named Jacob says, "Good morning, I would like to check in for my flight to Paris." The airline staff replies, "Of course. May I see your passport and ticket, please?" Jacob hands them over and says, "Here they are." The staff member types on the computer and replies, "Thank you. Do you have any luggage to check in?" Jacob answers, "Yes, I have 1 large suitcase." The staff says, "All right. Please place it on the scale." Jacob replies, "Okay, here you go." After weighing the suitcase, the staff says, "Your bag is within the weight limit. Here is your boarding pass. The gate will open in 1 hour." Jacob replies, "Thank you very much." Now picture a situation in a library. A student named Emily walks up to the desk and says, "Excuse me, I would like to borrow this book." The librarian replies, "Do you have your library card?" Emily answers, "Yes, here it is." The librarian scans the card and says, "This book is due back in 2 weeks." Emily replies, "Thank you. I will return it on time." Another situation is at a bakery. A man named George says, "Good morning. Could I have 2 loaves of bread and a dozen muffins, please?" The baker replies, "Certainly. Would you like white bread or brown bread?" George answers, "Brown bread, please." The baker wraps the bread and says, "Here you are." "That will be $8. George replies, "Here is $10. Keep the change." The baker says, "Thank you. Have a nice day." Imagine being at a sports shop. A boy named William says, "Hello, I need a new pair of football shoes." The assistant replies, "What size do you wear?" William answers, "Size 42. The assistant brings a pair and says, "Would you like to try them on?" William replies, Yes, please. He tries them and says, they fit perfectly. I will take them. Another useful setting is at a coffee shop. A woman named Laura says, good afternoon, I would like a cappuccino and a piece of chocolate cake. The barista replies, for here or to take away? Laura answers, for here, please. The barista says, that will be $6. Laura pays and says, thank you. Could you bring it to my table? The barista replies, of course. Now think about being at a travel information center. A tourist named Anthony says, excuse me, could you tell me where I can buy a city map? The guide replies, yes. We sell maps at the counter for $1. Anthony says, great. I will buy one. The guide hands over the map and says, this map also shows bus routes and tourist attractions. Anthony replies, that is very helpful. Thank you. Imagine shopping in a supermarket. A woman named Rachel says to a worker, excuse me, where can I find the rice? The worker replies, rice is in aisle number 6. Rachel answers, thank you very much. She walks away and finds the rice. Another common situation is in a hardware store. A man named Victor says, good afternoon, I need some nails and a hammer. The shopkeeper replies, yes, we have many types of nails. Do you need small or large ones? Victor answers, small ones, please. The shopkeeper gives him the items and says, that will be $7. Victor replies, thank you. Here is the money. Now imagine you are at a mobile phone shop. A customer named Sarah says, hello, I would like to buy a new phone. Could you show me the latest models? The assistant replies, of course. Here are the newest models with high-quality cameras. Sarah looks at them and says, this one looks good. How much is it? The assistant replies, it is $300. Sarah says, I will buy it. Picture being at a museum entrance. A couple walks up to the counter. The husband, Daniel, says, good morning. We would like 2 tickets for the art exhibition. The cashier replies, that will be $15. Daniel pays and says, thank you. Where is the entrance to the exhibition hall? The cashier replies, please go straight and then turn right. Now think about a conversation in a flower shop. A young man named Adam says, good afternoon, I would like to buy some roses. The florist replies, how many would you like? Adam answers, 12, please. The florist arranges the bouquet and says, here you go. That will be $20. Adam replies, thank you. They look beautiful. Another everyday example is at a swimming lesson. A mother named Julia says, hello, I would like to register my daughter for swimming lessons. The instructor replies, how old is she? Julia answers, she is 10 years old. The instructor says, perfect. We have classes for children her age every Saturday morning. Julia replies, that is great. Imagine being at a train station ticket counter. A traveler named Brian says, good morning, I would like a return ticket to Oxford. The clerk replies, would you like standard or first class? Brian answers, standard, please. The clerk says, the next train leaves in 20 minutes. Brian replies, that is perfect. Thank you. Now picture a situation at a university office. A student named Alice says, good afternoon. I need to collect my student ID card. The staff replies, do you have your enrollment form with you? Alice answers, yes, here it is. The staff checks it and hands over the card. Alice replies, thank you very much. Another helpful example is at a shoe repair shop. A woman named Monica says, hello, could you repair these shoes? The heel is broken. The cobbler replies, yes, I can fix them. They will be ready tomorrow. Monica replies, thank you. Imagine being at a travel booking website's help desk. A man named Thomas says, hello, I booked a flight online, but I did not receive a confirmation email. The support staff replies, could you give me your booking number? Thomas answers, yes, it is 6743. The staff checks and replies, I see your booking. I will resend the confirmation. Thomas says, that is very kind. Thank you. Now picture being at a public swimming pool again, but a different situation. A teenager named Kevin says to the staff, do you rent towels here? The staff replies, yes, we rent towels for $1. Kevin replies, great, I will rent one. Another scenario is at a doctor's waiting room. A nurse comes out and says, Mr. Anderson, the doctor will see you now. Mr. Anderson stands up and says, thank you. Imagine a situation in a classroom. A teacher says, please hand in your homework. A student named Lisa replies, I am sorry, I forgot my notebook at home. The teacher says, please bring it tomorrow. Lisa replies, yes, I will. Now think about a garage where people repair cars. A driver named Peter says, hello, my car makes a strange noise. Could you check it? The mechanic replies, of course. I will take a look. After checking, the mechanic says, the engine needs cleaning. Peter replies, all right, please go ahead. Another conversation happens at a music shop. A man named Chris says, good afternoon, do you sell guitar strings? The shopkeeper replies, yes, we have many kinds. Do you need steel or nylon strings? Chris answers, steel, please. The shopkeeper says, here they are. Chris replies, perfect. Thank you. Imagine being in a hotel again, but this time in the restaurant. A guest named Clara says, good evening, could I see the menu, please? The waiter replies, of course. Here you go. Clara reads and says, I would like grilled chicken with vegetables. The waiter replies, certainly. Would you like something to drink? Clara answers, yes, a glass of orange juice, please. Now picture a situation in a stationery shop. A student named Ben says, hello, I need some notebooks and pens. The cashier replies, how many notebooks do you need? Ben answers, 5, please, and 10 pens. The cashier packs them and says, that will be $12. Ben replies, here's the money. Thank you. Another everyday example is at a bus station. A woman named Kate says, excuse me, when does the next bus to Brighton leave? The clerk replies, it leaves at 2 o'clock. Kate answers, thank you. Can I buy a ticket now? The clerk replies, yes, of course. Imagine being at a bank machine. A man named Andrew says to himself, I need to withdraw $50. He inserts his card, types his PIN, and takes the money. Then he says, great, I have cash now. Another useful role play is at a dentist's clinic. A woman named Fiona says, hello, I have an appointment at 11 o'clock. The receptionist replies, yes, please have a seat. The dentist will call you soon. Fiona replies, thank you very much. Now picture a food delivery rider. He arrives at a house and says, here is your order, 1 burger and fries. The customer replies, thank you. How much is it? The rider says, $10. The customer pays and says, thanks a lot. Imagine being at an office. A worker named Daniel goes to his manager and says, good morning, could I speak with you for a few minutes? The manager replies, of course, please come in. What would you like to discuss? Daniel answers, I have some ideas for improving our weekly reports. If we use a simple template, it will save time for the whole team. The manager nods and says, that sounds helpful. Could you prepare a sample template and share it at the next meeting? Daniel replies, yes, I will have it ready by Friday. Now picture a family visiting a park. A mother named Hannah says to her son, look at the ducks in the pond. Do you want to feed them? The boy replies, yes, can I give them some bread? Hannah answers, yes, but only a little. Ducks need healthy food too. The boy throws some crumbs and the ducks swim closer. He laughs and says, they are eating so fast. Hannah smiles and says, yes, they are very hungry today. Another example happens at a clothing store. A woman named Olivia says to the shop assistant, excuse me, do you have this shirt in a larger size? The assistant replies, yes, let me check in the back. After a moment, she returns and says, here is a larger size. Would you like to try it on? Olivia replies, yes, please. She goes to the fitting room, tries it, and says, it fits perfectly. I will take it. Imagine being at a train. A passenger named Marcus says to another traveler, excuse me, is this seat taken? The traveler replies, no, please go ahead. Marcus sits and says, thank you. Do you know what time we will arrive in London? The traveler checks his watch and says, "We should arrive at 6:30. Marcus replies, "That is good. I need to meet a friend at 7. Now think about a bakery early in the morning. A father named George brings his daughter. He says to the baker, "Good morning. Could we have 2 croissants and a loaf of bread?" The baker replies, "Of course. Anything else?" George answers, "Yes, a slice of apple pie for my daughter." The baker wraps everything and says, "That will be $9. George pays and replies, "Thank you very much." Another everyday situation is at a hospital reception. A man named Richard says, "Good afternoon. I have an appointment with Dr. White at 3 o'clock. The receptionist checks the list and replies, "Yes, you are on the schedule. Please take a seat and the doctor will call you soon." Richard replies, "Thank you." Imagine being at a swimming pool. A young boy named Ethan says to the lifeguard, "Excuse me, could I borrow a pair of goggles?" The lifeguard replies, "We do not lend goggles, but you can buy a pair at the front desk." Ethan replies, "Okay, I will buy them." Now picture a family dinner at home. The father, Michael, says, "Can someone please pass me the salt?" His wife, Laura, replies, "Here you go." Michael sprinkles some salt and says, "Thank you. The soup tastes wonderful." Laura smiles and says, "I am glad you like it. I used fresh vegetables from the market." Their daughter, Anna, adds, "It is delicious, Mom." Another useful example is at a pharmacy. A woman named Sophia says, "Hello, I need some medicine for a sore throat." The pharmacist replies, "Do you prefer tablets or syrup?" Sophia answers, "Syrup, please. It is easier for me." The pharmacist hands her a bottle and says, "Take 1 spoon 3 times a day." Sophia replies, "Thank you very much." Imagine being at a tourist information office. A traveler named Henry says, "Good morning. Could you tell me how to get to the old castle?" The officer replies, "Yes, take bus number 12 from the square. It stops right in front of the castle." Henry replies, "That is very helpful. Thank you. Now think about a classroom." A student named Emily says, "Teacher, could you explain this grammar rule again?" The teacher replies, "Of course. Let me show you another example." Emily listens carefully and says, "Now I understand. Thank you for explaining." Another everyday moment is in a grocery shop. A man named Paul says, "Excuse me, do you sell fresh fish here?" The worker replies, "Yes, the fish section is at the back of the store." Paul answers, "Thank you. I will go there now." Imagine being at the airport security check. A woman named Clara puts her bag on the scanner. The officer says, "Please remove any liquids from your bag." Clara replies, "Yes, here are my bottles." She places them in a separate tray. The officer says, "Thank you, you can go through now." Clara replies, "Thank you." Now picture a situation in an office kitchen. A worker named Samuel says to his colleague, "Would you like some tea?" The colleague replies, "Yes, thank you. With a little sugar, please." Samuel makes the tea and says, "Here you go." The colleague replies, "Thanks. That is very kind of you." Another useful example is at a fruit market. A customer named Lily says, "How much are these bananas?" The seller replies, $2 for a kilo. Lily answers, "I will take 2 kilos, please." The seller packs them and says, "Here you go." Lily replies, "Thank you." Imagine being in a hotel lobby. A guest named William says, "Good afternoon. Could I get a taxi from here?" The receptionist replies, "Yes, I will call one for you. It will arrive in 10 minutes. William replies, "That is perfect. Thank you." Now think about a classroom presentation. A student named Jessica stands up and says, "Today I will talk about the importance of recycling. Recycling helps reduce waste and protects our environment." After finishing, the teacher replies, "Thank you, Jessica. That was a clear and well-prepared presentation." Another everyday conversation happens in a bookshop. A customer named Oliver says, "Excuse me, do you have a dictionary of idioms?" The assistant replies, "Yes, it is on the second shelf in the language section." Oliver replies, "Great, thank you." Imagine a farmer's market. A woman named Grace says, "Good morning, do you sell honey?" The farmer replies, "Yes, this honey is fresh from my farm." Grace replies, "Wonderful, I will take a jar." Now picture a bus ride. A passenger says to the driver, "Does this bus go to the university?" The driver replies, "Yes, it does. Please get off at the third stop." The passenger replies, "Thank you very much." Another useful example is at a dentist's office. A man named Patrick says, "Doctor, my tooth hurts when I eat something cold." The dentist replies, "Let me check. You have a small cavity. We need to fill it." Patrick replies, "All right, please do it." Imagine being in a post office again. A woman named Rachel says, "Could you tell me how long it will take to deliver this parcel?" The clerk replies, "Standard delivery takes 3 days. Express delivery takes 1 day." Rachel replies, "I will choose express delivery." Now think about a meeting room. A worker named Kevin says, "Shall we start the meeting now?" His colleague replies, "Yes, everyone is here." Kevin begins and says, "Today we will discuss our sales targets for the next quarter." Another everyday story is at a car rental service. A traveler named Lucas says, "Hello, I booked a car for 2 days." The clerk replies, "May I see your driving license?" Lucas hands it over and says, "Here it is." The clerk checks and replies, "Your car is ready outside." Lucas replies, "Thank you." Imagine being at a laundry shop. A woman named Anna says, "Hello, I would like to wash and iron these clothes." The worker replies, "They will be ready tomorrow afternoon." Anna replies, "That is fine. Thank you." Now picture a family going shopping. The father, James, says, "Children, do you want apples or oranges?" His son replies, "I want oranges." His daughter says, "I want apples." James laughs and says, "All right, we will buy both." Another useful example is at a computer store. A customer named Mark says, "Do you sell laptop chargers?" The assistant replies, "Yes, what model is your laptop?" Mark answers, "It is a Dell." The assistant replies, "Here is the right charger for you." Mark replies, "Perfect. I will buy it." Imagine a restaurant at lunchtime. A man named David says to the waiter, "Could I have today's special, please?" The waiter replies, "Yes, it is grilled salmon with vegetables." David replies, "That sounds good. I will have it." Now think about a classroom role play. A teacher says, "Imagine you are in a shop. One person is the customer and the other is the seller." 2 students act out the scene. The customer says, "How much is this pen?" The seller replies, "It is $1." The teacher smiles and says, "Well done." Imagine being at a bus ticket counter. A woman named Alice says, "Good morning, I would like a ticket to Brighton for tomorrow." The clerk replies, "Do you want a one-way ticket or a return?" Alice answers, "A return ticket, please." The clerk types on the computer and says, "That will be $22." The bus leaves at 9 in the morning. Alice replies, "Perfect. Here is the money. Thank you." Now picture a scenario at a hotel front desk. A guest named Robert says, "Good evening, I have a reservation under the name Robert Hill." The receptionist replies, "Yes, we have your booking. Could I see your ID, please?" Robert hands over his ID and says, "Here it is." The receptionist types on the computer and says, "Your room is ready. It is on the 3rd floor. Here is your key card." Robert replies, "Thank you. Could you also tell me where the restaurant is?" The receptionist says, "Go straight down the hall and the restaurant is on your left." Robert replies, "Thank you very much." Another situation is at a post office. A man named Simon says, "Hello, I need to send this parcel to Canada. How much will it cost?" The clerk replies, "It depends on the weight. Let me weigh it first." After weighing, the clerk says, "It is $15 for standard delivery." Simon replies, "All right, I will pay for that." The clerk wraps the parcel and hands it back. Simon says, "Thank you very much for your help." Imagine being at a bakery. A woman named Helen says, "Good morning, could I have a loaf of rye bread and 4 buns?" The baker replies, "Yes, would you like fresh buns or slightly toasted?" Helen answers, "Fresh, please." The baker wraps the items and says, That will be $7. Helen pays and replies, "Thank you. Have a good day." Now think about a grocery store. A man named Jonathan asks a worker, "Excuse me, where can I find the olive oil?" The worker replies, "It is in aisle 7, next to the vinegar." Jonathan answers, "Thank you very much." He walks to the aisle and picks the bottle he wants. Another everyday moment is at a hospital. A woman named Emily says, "Hello, I would like to make an appointment with Dr. Parker." The receptionist replies, "Certainly. What day is convenient for you?" Emily answers, "Next Tuesday morning, please." The receptionist types on the computer and says, "We have an opening at 10 o'clock. Will that work?" Emily replies, "Yes, that is perfect." "Thank you." Imagine a father and son visiting a museum. The father, Peter, says, "Look at this dinosaur skeleton. Isn't it amazing?" The son replies, "Yes. It is huge. How old is it?" Peter answers, "It is about 60 million years old." The son gasps and says, "Wow, that is so long ago." Now picture being at a coffee shop. A man named Daniel says, "Good afternoon. Could I have a latte and a chocolate croissant?" The barista replies, "For here or to go?" Daniel answers, "For here, please." The barista hands him the order and says, "That will be $5. Daniel pays and replies, "Thank you. Could I have a glass of water as well?" The barista hands him the water and says, "Of course." Another common situation is at a car rental office. A woman named Rachel says, "Hello, I booked a small car for 3 days." The agent replies, "May I see your driver's license and credit card, please?" Rachel hands them over and says, "Here you go." The agent types on the computer and says, "Your car is ready outside. Please check the fuel level before driving." Rachel replies, "Thank you very much." Imagine a library scene. A student named Mark says, "Hello, I need to borrow this book for my research." The librarian replies, "Do you have your student ID?" Mark answers, "Yes, here it is." The librarian scans the ID and book and says, "You must return it in 2 weeks." Mark replies, "Thank you. I will take good care of it." Now picture a family at a supermarket. The father, Tom, says, "Children, do you want apples or bananas?" His daughter replies, "Apples, please." His son answers, "Bananas for me." Tom smiles and says, "All right, we will buy both." They walk to the fruit section and pick their choices. Another useful example is at a travel agency. A traveler named Lucy says, "Hello, I would like to book a tour of the city." The agent replies, "We have a full-day tour and a half-day tour. Which one would you prefer?" Lucy answers, "I would like the full-day tour, please." The agent says, "Great. It includes lunch and visits to all major attractions." Lucy replies, "Perfect. I will book it." Imagine a situation at a school office. A parent named Kevin says, "Hello, I would like to speak with the principal regarding my son's performance." The secretary replies, "The principal is available at 4 o'clock. Would you like to schedule an appointment?" Kevin answers, "Yes, that will be fine." Now picture a conversation at a fruit market. A woman named Natalie says, "Good morning, how much are the strawberries today?" The vendor replies, $3 per kilo. Natalie answers, "I will take 2 kilos, please." The vendor packs them and says, "Here you go." Natalie replies, "Thank you very much." Another everyday scenario is at a clothing alteration shop. A man named James says, "Hello, this shirt is too long. Could you shorten it for me?" The tailor replies, "Yes, how many centimeters do you want me to cut?" James answers, 5 centimeters, please. The tailor replies, "It will be ready in 2 days." James says, "Thank you very much." Imagine a customer at a shoe store. A woman named Karen says, "Hello, do you have these shoes in size 39? The assistant replies, "Yes, here they are. Would you like to try them on?" Karen answers, "Yes, please." She tries them on and says, "They fit perfectly. I will take them." Now picture a train station. A traveler named Lucas says, "Excuse me, what time does the train to Manchester leave?" The clerk replies, "It leaves at 3:15 in the afternoon." Lucas answers, "Thank you. Can I buy a ticket now?" The clerk says, "Yes, of course. One ticket is 20 pounds. Lucas replies, here is the money. Thank you. Another useful example is at a bank. A man named Peter says, good morning, I would like to deposit $100 into my account. The teller replies, do you have your account number? Peter answers, yes, it is 4587. The teller processes the deposit and says, all done. Your new balance is $500. Peter replies, thank you very much. Imagine being at a hotel restaurant. A guest named Sarah says, good evening. Could I see the menu, please? The waiter replies, of course. Here you go. Sarah reads and says, I would like the grilled chicken with vegetables. Now picture a scene at a pharmacy. A man named Andrew says, hello, I need something for a headache. The pharmacist replies, do you prefer tablets or capsules? Andrew answers, tablets, please. The pharmacist hands him a box and says, take one tablet every 6 hours. Andrew replies, thank you very much. Another scenario is at a bus stop. A woman named Olivia says, excuse me, does this bus go to the train station? The driver replies, yes, it stops there in 20 minutes. Olivia answers, thank you very much. Imagine a family at a zoo. The father, Michael, says, look at the lions. They are sleeping. His son replies, they look so big. Michael says, yes, they are very strong animals. His daughter adds, can we see the monkeys next? Michael replies, of course, they are in the next area. Now picture a conversation at a mobile phone shop. A customer named Daniel says, hello, do you sell phone chargers for iPhones? The assistant replies, yes, here they are. Daniel answers, perfect. I will buy one. Another everyday example is at a car repair shop. A man named Thomas says, hello, my car makes a strange noise when I start it. The mechanic replies, let me check. It seems your battery is low. I can replace it for you. Thomas answers, please do. Thank you. Imagine being at a swimming pool again. A young girl named Emma says, could I borrow a swimming cap? The lifeguard replies, yes, here is one. Please return it after swimming. Emma says, thank you very much. Imagine being at a hotel reception. A guest named Patrick says, good morning, I booked a room under the name Patrick Lewis. The receptionist replies, yes, Mr. Lewis. Could I see your ID and credit card, please? Patrick hands them over and says, here you go. The receptionist checks the reservation and says, your room is ready on the 4th floor. Here is your key card. Breakfast is served from 7 to 10. Patrick replies, thank you very much. Could you tell me where the gym is? The receptionist replies, go straight down the hall and turn left. The gym is next to the pool. Patrick says, perfect. Thank you. Now picture a family at a park. The mother, Emily, says, children, do you want to play on the swings or go to the playground? Her daughter, Mia, replies, I want to go on the swings. Her son, Noah, says, I want to play on the slides. Emily smiles and says, all right, you both can do that. Another scenario happens at a bookstore. A man named Simon says, excuse me, do you have the latest novel by John Mitchell? The assistant replies, yes, it is on the new arrivals shelf. Simon answers, thank you. I will take it. Imagine being at a restaurant. A woman named Laura says, good evening. Could I see the menu, please? The waiter replies, certainly. Here you go. Laura reads and says, I would like the grilled salmon and a side of vegetables. The waiter asks, would you like a drink with that? Laura answers, yes, a glass of sparkling water, please. The waiter replies, certainly. It will be ready shortly. Now picture a travel agency. A traveler named Michael says, hello, I want to book a tour to the mountains for next weekend. The agent replies, we have a full-day tour and a 2-day tour. Which one would you like? Michael answers, the 2-day tour, please. The agent says, it includes accommodation and meals. You will have a guide with you throughout the tour. Michael replies, perfect. I will book it. Another everyday situation is at a bakery. A young man named Daniel says, good morning, could I have a chocolate cake and a loaf of bread? The baker replies, "Of course. Would you like fresh bread or sliced?" Daniel answers, "Fresh, please." The baker wraps the items and says, "That will be $12. Daniel pays and replies, "Thank you. Have a nice day." Imagine a conversation at a clothing store. A woman named Sophie says, "Hello, do you have this jacket in size medium?" The assistant replies, "Let me check." "Yes, here it is. Would you like to try it on?" Sophie answers, "Yes, please." She goes to the fitting room, tries it, and says, "It fits perfectly. I will buy it." Now picture a train station. A passenger named Kevin asks, "Excuse me, what time does the train to Birmingham leave?" The clerk replies, "It leaves at 4:15 in the afternoon." Kevin says, "Thank you. Can I buy a ticket now?" The clerk replies, "Yes, that will be £15. Kevin pays and says, "Thank you very much." Another situation is at a fruit market. A woman named Rachel says, "Good morning, how much are the oranges today?" The vendor replies, $2 per kilo. Rachel answers, "I will take 3 kilos, please." The vendor packs them and says, "Here you go." Rachel replies, "Thank you very much." Imagine being at a car repair shop. A man named Thomas says, "Hello, my car is making a strange sound when I start it." The mechanic replies, "Let me check." "It seems your brakes need inspection." "I can fix them today." Thomas answers, "Please go ahead." "Thank you. Now picture a swimming pool." A young girl named Emma says, "Excuse me, could I borrow a swimming cap?" The lifeguard replies, "Yes, here is one. Please return it after swimming." Emma replies, "Thank you very much." Another useful example is at a pharmacy. A man named Andrew says, "Hello, I need something for a cold." The pharmacist replies, "Do you prefer syrup or tablets?" Andrew answers, "Tablets, please." The pharmacist hands him a box and says, "Take 1 tablet every 8 hours. Andrew replies, "Thank you very much." Imagine a family at the supermarket. The father, Tom, says, "Children, do you want apples or bananas?" His daughter replies, "Apples, please." His son answers, "Bananas for me." Tom smiles and says, "All right, we will buy both." They walk to the fruit section and pick their choices. Now picture a classroom. A student named Lily asks, "Teacher, can you explain the past tense again?" The teacher replies, "Of course. Look at this example. Yesterday I walked to the park." Walked shows the past tense of walk. Lily says, now I understand." "Thank you." Another everyday scenario is at a bakery again. A woman named Grace says, "Good morning, I would like 2 croissants and a loaf of bread." The baker replies, "Fresh or toasted?" Grace answers, "Fresh, please." The baker wraps the items and says, "That will be $6. Grace pays and replies, "Thank you very much." Imagine a hotel restaurant. A guest named William says, "Good evening. I would like the steak with vegetables and a glass of water." The waiter replies, "Certainly. Would you like it medium or well done?" William answers, "Medium, please." The waiter says, "It will be ready shortly." Now picture a conversation at a library. A student named Mark says, "Hello, I need to borrow this book for my research." The librarian replies, "Do you have your student ID?" Mark answers, "Yes, here it is." The librarian scans the ID and book and says, "You must return it in 2 weeks." Mark replies, "Thank you. I will take good care of it." Another situation is at a shoe store. A woman named Karen says, "Hello, do you have these shoes in size 38? The assistant replies, "Yes, here they are. Would you like to try them on?" Karen answers, "Yes, please." She tries them on and says, "They fit perfectly. I will buy them." Imagine a bus stop. A woman named Olivia says, "Excuse me, does this bus go to the city center?" The driver replies, "Yes, it will stop there in 15 minutes. Olivia replies, "Thank you very much." Now picture a family at a zoo. The father, Michael, says, "Look at the elephants. They are huge." His son replies, "They are so big and strong." His daughter adds, "Can we see the monkeys next?" Michael answers, "Yes, they are in the next area." Another example is at a mobile phone shop. A customer named Daniel says, "Hello, do you sell phone chargers for Samsung phones?" The assistant replies, "Yes, here they are." Daniel answers, "Perfect. I will buy one. Imagine being at a bank." A man named Peter says, "Good morning, I would like to withdraw $100 from my account." The teller replies, "Do you have your card?" Peter answers, "Yes, here it is." The teller processes the transaction and says, "All done. Your new balance is $500. Peter replies, "Thank you very much." Imagine being at a train station. A passenger named Brian says, "Excuse me, is this the platform for the train to Edinburgh?" The station officer replies, "Yes, it is. The train will depart at 12:30. Make sure to have your ticket ready." Brian replies, "Thank you very much." He walks to the platform and waits, checking the departure board. Now picture a conversation in a cafe. A woman named Jessica says, "Good morning, could I have a cappuccino and a blueberry muffin?" The barista replies, "For here or to go?" Jessica answers, "For here, please." The barista hands her order and says, "That will be $5. Jessica pays and replies, "Thank you. Can I also have a glass of water?" The barista hands it to her and says, "Of course." Another situation happens at a supermarket. A man named Adam says, "Excuse me, where can I find fresh tomatoes?" The store employee replies, "They are in aisle 5, near the vegetables." Adam answers, "Thank you very much." He goes to the aisle and selects a few tomatoes. Checking for freshness, imagine being at a hotel. A guest named Elizabeth says, "Hello, I would like to order room service, please." The receptionist replies, "Certainly. May I have your room number?" Elizabeth answers, "Room 312. The receptionist says, "What would you like to order?" Elizabeth replies, "A Caesar salad and a cup of orange juice, please." The receptionist confirms, "Your order will arrive in 20 minutes. Elizabeth says, "Thank you very much." Now picture a family at a zoo. The father, David, says, "Look at the giraffes. Aren't they tall?" His daughter, Sophie, replies, "Yes, they are the tallest animals here." His son, Jack, adds, "Can we feed them?" David answers, "Yes, we can buy some food at the counter." Another everyday scenario is at a clothing shop. A woman named Hannah says, "Hello, do you have this dress in size medium?" The shop assistant replies, "Let me check." "Yes, here it is. Would you like to try it on?" Hannah answers, "Yes, please." She tries the dress and says, "It fits well." "I will take it." Imagine being at a pharmacy. A man named Oliver says, "Hello, I need something for a sore throat." The pharmacist replies, "Do you prefer lozenges or syrup?" Oliver answers, "Lozenges, please." The pharmacist hands him a pack and says, "Take one every 4 hours." Oliver replies, "Thank you very much." Now picture a restaurant. A man named Thomas says, "Good evening, could I have the chicken curry with rice and a glass of water?" The waiter replies, "Would you like it spicy or mild?" Thomas answers, "Mild, please." The waiter says, "It will be ready in a few minutes." Thomas smiles and says, "Thank you very much." Another useful example is at a travel agency. A traveler named Anna says, "Hello, I want to book a city tour for tomorrow morning." The agent replies, "We have a guided tour and a self-guided tour. Which one would you like?" Anna answers, "The guided tour, please." The agent says, "It includes transportation and entry tickets to all major attractions." Anna replies, "Perfect. I will book it." Imagine a classroom. A student named Emily says, "Teacher, could you explain the future tense one more time?" The teacher replies, "Of course. For example, I will go to the park tomorrow." Will go shows the future action. Emily says, "Ah, now I understand. Thank you." Now picture a bakery. A woman named Grace says, "Good morning. I would like 2 baguettes and a chocolate croissant." The baker replies, "Fresh or toasted?" Grace answers, "Fresh, please." The baker wraps them and says, "That will be $8. Grace pays and replies, "Thank you very much." Another everyday scenario is at a gym. A man named Daniel asks the trainer, "Could you show me how to use this machine?" The trainer replies, "Yes, place your feet here and hold the handles. Slowly push forward and then return." Daniel tries it and says, "I see. Thank you for explaining." Imagine being at a bus stop. A woman named Lucy asks, "Does this bus go to the central station?" The driver replies, "Yes, it stops there in 20 minutes. Lucy says, "Thank you very much." Now picture a family at a museum. The mother, Rachel, says, "Children, look at this painting. It is very old." Her daughter, Mia, replies, "It is beautiful." "Who painted it?" Rachel answers, "It was painted by an artist in the 1800s. Her son, Alex, adds, "Wow, that is a long time ago." Another scenario is at a computer store. A customer named Mark says, "Hello, do you sell external hard drives?" The assistant replies, "Yes, what capacity do you need?" Mark answers, 1 terabyte, please." The assistant says, "Here it is." "Would you like me to show you how to use it?" Mark replies, "Yes, please." Imagine being at a car rental office. A man named Kevin says, "Hello, I reserved a car for 4 days." The agent replies, "May I see your driver's license and credit card?" Kevin hands them over and says, "Here you go." The agent checks and says, "Your car is ready. Please check the fuel and tires before driving." Kevin replies, "Thank you very much." Now picture a grocery store. A woman named Sophia asks, "Where can I find fresh herbs?" The employee replies, "They are in aisle 6 near the vegetables." Sophia says, "Thank you. I will go there now." Another everyday moment is at a hotel lobby. A guest named William says, "Hello, could you call a taxi for me?" The receptionist replies, "Of course. One will arrive in 5 minutes." William answers, "Thank you very much." Imagine a classroom activity. A teacher says, "Let's do a role play." One student will be the customer and the other will be the shop assistant. A student named Emily says, "How much is this notebook?" The other student replies, "It is $3. The teacher says, "Well done. Remember to speak clearly." Now picture a bakery again. A man named George says, "Good morning. Could I have a loaf of rye bread and a dozen cookies?" The baker replies, "Fresh or slightly toasted?" George answers, "Fresh, please." The baker wraps them and says, "That will be $12. George pays and replies, "Thank you very much." Another scenario is at a clothing alteration shop. A woman named Karen says, "Hello, this dress is too long. Could you shorten it?" The tailor replies, "Yes, how many centimeters should I cut?" Karen answers, 7 centimeters, please. The tailor replies, "It will be ready in 2 days." Karen says, "Thank you very much." Imagine being at a library. A student named Lucas says, "Hello, I would like to borrow this book." The librarian replies, "Do you have your student ID?" Lucas answers, "Yes, here it is." The librarian scans the ID and book and says, "Please return it in 2 weeks." Lucas replies, "Thank you very much." Now picture a restaurant. A man named Thomas says, "Good evening, I would like the vegetarian pasta with a glass of water." The waiter replies, "Would you like a salad with that?" Thomas answers, "Yes, please." The waiter says, "It will be ready in a few minutes." Thomas replies, "Thank you very much." Another everyday example is at a fruit market. A woman named Lily asks, "Good morning. How much are the grapes today?" The vendor replies, $3 per kilo. Lily answers, "I will take 2 kilos, please." The vendor packs them and says, "Here you go." Lily replies, "Thank you very much." Imagine a workplace meeting. A manager named Daniel says, "Good morning, everyone. Today we will discuss the new project plan." His colleague Sarah replies, "Thank you, Daniel. Could you explain the deadlines for each task?" Daniel answers, "Yes, the first draft should be ready in 2 weeks, and the final report by the end of the month." Another colleague, Peter, asks, "Will we have a team meeting next week to review progress?" Daniel replies, "Yes, we will meet on Wednesday at 10 o'clock. Please prepare your updates." Now picture a family at a local park. The father, Michael, says, Children, do you want to ride the bicycles or play football? His daughter, Emma, replies, I want to ride the bicycle. His son, Lucas, answers, I want to play football with Dad. Michael smiles and says, All right, you both can do that. I will join Lucas for a game. Another situation happens at a restaurant. A woman named Anna says, Good evening, I would like the grilled fish with vegetables and a glass of lemonade. The waiter replies, Would you like the fish with lemon or garlic sauce? Anna answers, With lemon, please. The waiter says, It will be ready shortly. Anna replies, Thank you very much. Imagine a conversation at a travel office. A man named Robert says, Hello, I want to book a weekend trip to the countryside. The agent replies, We have two options, a one-day trip or a two-day trip with overnight stay. Which one would you like? Robert answers, The two-day trip, please. The agent says, It includes transportation, meals, and guided tours. Robert replies, Perfect. I will book it. Now picture a shopping scenario at a supermarket. A woman named Olivia asks, Excuse me, where can I find the dairy products? The employee replies, They are in aisle 3, next to the frozen section. Olivia answers, Thank you very much. She walks to the aisle and picks some milk, yogurt, and cheese. Another everyday example is at a bakery. A man named James says, Good morning. Could I have a loaf of whole wheat bread and 6 buns? The baker replies, Fresh or slightly toasted? Imagine a restaurant scene. A woman named Rachel says, Good evening. I would like the grilled chicken with steamed vegetables and a glass of water. The waiter replies, Would you like a salad on the side? Rachel answers, Yes, please. The waiter says, It will be ready in about 10 minutes. Rachel replies, Thank you very much. Now picture a family at the park. The father, James, says, Children, do you want to go on the swings or play in the sandbox? His daughter, Lily, replies, I want to go on the swings. His son, Ethan, answers, I want to play in the sandbox. James smiles and says, All right, you both can do that. I will help Ethan build a sandcastle. Another situation happens at a travel office. A man named David says, Hello, I would like to book a weekend trip to the mountains. The agent replies, We have two options, a one-day trip or a two-day trip with overnight stay. Which one would you prefer? David answers, The two-day trip, please. The agent says, It includes accommodation, transportation, and guided tours. David replies, Perfect. I will book it. Imagine a shopping scenario at a clothing store. A woman named Sophie asks, Do you have this dress in size small? The assistant replies, Let me check. Yes, here it is. Would you like to try it on? Sophie answers, Yes, please. She tries the dress and says, It fits well. I will take it. Now picture a family at a zoo. The mother, Laura, says, Children, look at the lions. They are sleeping. Her daughter, Emma, replies, They look so big. Her son, Lucas, asks, Can we see the monkeys next? Laura answers, Yes, they are in the next area. Another everyday situation is at a bakery. A man named Michael says, Good morning. Could I have a loaf of rye bread and a chocolate croissant? The baker replies, Fresh or toasted? Michael answers, Fresh, please. The baker wraps the items and says, That will be $8. Michael pays and replies, Thank you very much. Imagine a workplace meeting. A manager named Olivia says, Good morning, everyone. Today we need to review the new project schedule. Her colleague, Peter, asks, Can you explain the deadlines for each task? Olivia answers, Yes, the first draft should be completed in 2 weeks, and the final version by the end of the month. Another colleague, Sarah, asks, Will we have a meeting next week to check the progress? Olivia replies, Yes, on Wednesday at 10 o'clock. Please prepare your updates. Now picture a hotel reception. A guest named Thomas says, Hello, I would like to extend my stay for one more night. The receptionist replies, Certainly. May I have your room number? Thomas answers, Room 315. The receptionist types in the computer and says, Your stay has been extended. Breakfast will be served at the usual time. Thomas replies, Thank you very much. Another scenario is at a library. A student named Emily says, Hello, I would like to borrow 3 books for my research. The librarian replies, Do you have your library card? Emily answers, Yes, here it is. The librarian scans the books and says, Please return them in 3 weeks. Emily replies, Thank you. I will take good care of them. Imagine a coffee shop. A man named Daniel says, Good morning, I would like a latte and a chocolate muffin. The barista replies, For here or to go? Daniel answers, For here, please. The barista hands him the order and says, That will be $6. Daniel pays and replies, Thank you. Can I also have a glass of water? The barista hands it to him and says, Of course. Now picture a supermarket. A woman named Olivia asks, Excuse me, where can I find the fresh herbs? The employee replies, They are in aisle 6, near the vegetables. Olivia answers, Thank you very much. She walks to the aisle and selects basil and parsley. Another useful example is at a clothing alteration shop. A man named James says, Hello, my shirt is too long. Could you shorten it? The tailor replies, Yes, how many centimeters do you want me to cut? James answers, 5 centimeters, please. The tailor replies, It will be ready in 2 days. James says, Thank you very much. Imagine a train station. A passenger named Brian asks, Excuse me, which platform is for the train to Manchester? The station officer replies, Platform 2. The train departs at 3:15 in the afternoon. Brian replies, Thank you very much. He walks to the platform and waits, checking the departure board. Now picture a family at a playground. The mother, Rachel, says, Children, do you want to play on the slide or go on the swings? Her daughter, Mia, replies, I want to go on the slide. Her son, Alex, answers, I want to go on the swings. Rachel smiles and says, All right, you both can do that. Another scenario is at a bakery shop. A woman named Grace says, Good morning. I would like 2 croissants and a loaf of whole wheat bread. The baker replies, Fresh or toasted? Grace answers, Fresh, please. The baker wraps the items and says, That will be $7. Grace pays and replies, Thank you very much. Imagine a workplace discussion. A manager named Lucy says, We need to prepare the monthly sales report. Her colleague Mark asks, Can you share the latest sales figures? Lucy replies, Yes, the report shows a 12% increase compared to last month. Another colleague, Nina, adds, That is excellent news. Should we plan a team meeting? Lucy answers, Yes, let's meet tomorrow morning to discuss the next steps. Now picture a hotel restaurant. A guest named William says, Good evening, I would like the salmon with vegetables and a glass of water. The waiter replies, Would you like a side salad? William answers, Yes, please. The waiter says it will be ready in 10 minutes. William replies, Thank you very much. Another everyday example is at a fruit market. A woman named Lily asks, Good morning, how much are the apples today? The vendor replies, $2 per kilo. Lily answers, I will take 3 kilos, please. The vendor packs them and says, Here you go. Lily replies, Thank you very much. Imagine being at a car rental office. A man named Kevin says, Hello, I booked a small car for 3 days. The agent replies, May I see your driver's license and credit card? Kevin hands them over and says, Here you go. The agent checks and says, Your car is ready outside. Please check the fuel and tires before driving. Kevin replies, Thank you very much. Now picture a coffee shop again. A woman named Emma says, Good morning, could I have a cappuccino and a blueberry muffin? The barista replies, For here or to go? Emma answers, For here, please. The barista hands her order and says, That will be $6. Emma pays and replies, Thank you. Can I also have a glass of water? Another scenario is at a travel office. A traveler named Robert says, Hello, I want to book a sightseeing tour for tomorrow morning. The agent replies, We have a half-day tour and a full-day tour. Which one would you like? Robert answers, The full-day tour, please. The agent says, It includes a guide, transportation, and entry to all main attractions. Robert replies, perfect. I will book it. Imagine a library scene. A student named Lucas says, hello, I would like to borrow this novel. The librarian replies, do you have your library card? Lucas answers, yes, here it is. The librarian scans the book and says, please return it in 2 weeks. Lucas replies, thank you very much. Now picture a restaurant. A man named Thomas says, good evening, I would like the vegetarian lasagna with a glass of water. The waiter replies, would you like garlic bread with that? Thomas answers, yes, please. The waiter says, it will be ready in a few minutes. Thomas replies, thank you very much. Another everyday example is at a supermarket. A woman named Sophia asks, excuse me, where can I find the fresh tomatoes? The employee replies, they are in aisle 4, near the vegetable. Imagine a restaurant scenario. A woman named Clara says, good evening. I would like the grilled salmon with steamed vegetables and a glass of sparkling water. The waiter replies, would you like a side of rice or potatoes? Clara answers, potatoes, please. The waiter says, it will be ready in about 10 minutes. Clara replies, thank you very much. Now picture a family at a park. The father, Robert, says, children, do you want to ride your bicycles or play on the swings? His daughter, Anna, replies, I want to ride my bicycle. His son, Liam, answers, I want to play on the swings. Robert smiles and says, all right, you both can do that. I will help Liam with the swing. Another situation happens at a hotel reception. A guest named Edward says, hello, I would like to check in. I have a reservation under Edward Collins. The receptionist replies, yes, Mr. Collins. Could I see your ID and credit card, please? Edward hands them over and says, here you go. The receptionist checks the reservation and says, your room is ready on the 5th floor. Breakfast is served from 7 to 10. Edward replies, thank you very much. Could you tell me where the gym is? The receptionist answers, go straight down the hall and turn left. The gym is next to the pool. Edward says, perfect. Thank you. Imagine a workplace discussion. A team leader named Karen says, we need to organize the presentation for the client meeting on Friday. Who can prepare the slides? Her colleague, David, replies, I can prepare the slides and include the main points and charts. Karen answers, excellent. Please send me a draft by Wednesday. Another colleague, Susan, asks, who will rehearse the speech? Karen replies, I will coordinate that. We will have a rehearsal on Thursday morning. Now picture a travel office. A traveler named Michelle says, hello, I want to book a weekend tour to the countryside. The agent replies, we have 2 options, a 1-day tour or a 2-day tour with overnight stay. Which one would you like? Michelle answers, the 2-day tour, please. The agent says, it includes transportation, accommodation, and guided activities. Michelle replies, perfect. I will book it. Another everyday example is at a supermarket. A woman named Julia asks, excuse me, where can I find fresh basil and parsley? The employee replies, they are in aisle 5 near the vegetables. Julia answers, thank you very much. She walks to the aisle and selects the herbs. Imagine a bakery. A man named Jonathan says, good morning, I would like a loaf of whole wheat bread and 6 chocolate muffins. The baker replies, fresh or slightly toasted? Jonathan answers, fresh, please. The baker wraps the items and says, that will be $10. Jonathan pays and replies, thank you very much. Now picture a family at a zoo. The mother, Emily, says, children, look at the elephants. They are eating. Her daughter, Sophie, replies, they are so big and strong. Her son, Max, asks, can we feed them? Emily answers, yes, we can buy food at the counter. Max replies, I want to try feeding them. Another scenario is at a restaurant. A man named Oliver says, good evening. I would like the chicken curry with rice and a glass of water. The waiter replies, would you like it spicy or mild? Oliver answers, mild, please. The waiter says, it will be ready in a few minutes. Oliver replies, Thank you very much. Imagine a library. A student named Laura says, "Hello, I want to borrow 3 novels for my research." The librarian replies, "Do you have your library card?" Laura answers, "Yes, here it is." The librarian scans the books and says, "Please return them in 3 weeks." Laura replies, "Thank you. I will take good care of them." Now picture a clothing store. A woman named Hannah asks, "Do you have this jacket in size medium?" The assistant replies, "Yes, here it is. Would you like to try it on?" Hannah answers, "Yes, please." She tries it on and says, "It fits perfectly. I will take it." Another situation happens at a train station. A passenger named Kevin asks, "Excuse me, which platform goes to Glasgow?" The station officer replies, "Platform 3. The train departs at 4 o'clock." Kevin replies, "Thank you very much." He walks to the platform and waits, checking the departure board. Imagine a coffee shop. A man named Simon says, "Good morning, I would like a cappuccino and a blueberry muffin." The barista replies, "For here or to go?" Simon answers, "For here, please." The barista hands him the order and says, "That will be $6. Simon pays and replies, "Thank you. Can I also have a glass of water?" Now picture a workplace meeting. A manager named Rachel says, "We need to discuss the monthly budget report." Her colleague, Mark, asks, "Can you share the latest figures?" Rachel replies, "Yes, the report shows a 15% increase compared to last month." Another colleague, Emma, adds, "That is excellent news. Should we plan a team meeting?" Rachel answers, "Yes, let's meet tomorrow morning to discuss the next steps." Another everyday scenario is at a grocery store. A woman named Sophia asks, "Excuse me, where can I find fresh oranges?" The employee replies, "They are in aisle 4, near the fruits." Sophia says, "Thank you very much." She walks to the aisle and picks 3 kilos of oranges. Imagine a family at a park. The father, Thomas, says, "Children, do you want to ride your scooters or play football?" His daughter, Anna, replies, "I want to ride my scooter." His son, Liam, answers, "I want to play football with Dad." Thomas smiles and says, "All right, you both can do that." Now picture a hotel restaurant. A guest named William says, "Good evening. I would like the steak with vegetables and a glass of water." The waiter replies, "Would you like it medium or well done?" William answers, "Medium, please." The waiter says, "It will be ready shortly." William replies, "Thank you very much." Another useful example is at a bakery shop. A woman named Karen says, "Good morning, I would like 2 croissants and a loaf of whole wheat bread." The baker replies, "Fresh or toasted?" Karen answers, "Fresh, please." The baker wraps the items and says, "That will be $7. Karen pays and replies, "Thank you very much." Imagine a travel office. A traveler named Robert says, "Hello, I want to book a sightseeing tour for tomorrow morning." The agent replies, "We have a half-day tour and a full-day tour. Which one would you like?" Robert answers, "The full-day tour, please." The agent says, "It includes a guide, transportation, and entry to all main attractions." Robert replies, "Perfect. I will book it." Now picture a library. A student named Lucas says, "Hello, I would like to borrow this novel." The librarian replies, "Do you have your library card?" Lucas answers, "Yes, here it is." The librarian scans the book and says, "Please return it in 2 weeks." Lucas replies, "Thank you very much." Another scenario is at a restaurant. A man named Thomas says, "Good evening, I would like the vegetarian pizza and a glass of water." The waiter replies, "Would you like extra cheese?" Thomas answers, "Yes, please." The waiter says, "It will be ready in about 10 minutes." Thomas replies, "Thank you very much."